Okay, everybody back. Had something to eat. So please don't fall asleep, especially my colleagues here. Hi, I'm Pierre Bezuidenhout. I'm heading up Delter. So I'll be talking a little bit into the more technical future development, showcasing of what stuff we're looking at and what you can look forward to. And then also talking a little bit about a sort of I'll say a compliance issue that we're picking up in the market. But without further ado, kicking off Delter development, product enhancement. As you can see, we've got quite a number of developments planned for this year. Firstly, kicking off answering one of the questions we had earlier, remote signature. It is in development, it's basically finished development. It's in POC at this point. So soon you'll be able to use your Webfin system and fire off the loan agreement to the customer where they sit at home or anywhere in the country, and then go and click on a link and they take their finger and sign on their phone. Once they've done, they click submit and you will get the signed agreement back in your Webfin system to complete the loan. Okay, that complies with e-signature. Then I've got VoIP on there. It's available right now, specifically aimed at customers that are looking into a call center environment or that just want to engage with clients and record that specific call. The call is saved with a link into the system, and at any point of time, you will be able to go and retrieve that call, listen to it. However, the important thing on that is you need to have your scripting right and sorted. Next thing, automation. After lengthy discussions with a number of our clients, they all tend to ask for assistance in getting stuff done quicker, getting stuff done earlier, getting stuff done without requiring someone to press a button. So we've embarked on this year to go and look into automation. The first number of items we'll be looking at is receipt processing. In other words, making use of Webfin. When you open your shop at 8 o'clock in the morning, the system would have processed already your new pay receipts for you. You will just go and pull a couple of reports to see if there's any anomalies. SMSs, the ability to send an SMS to a client when you perform certain functions in the system. Currently it's available, but it's a manual process. You will be able to set the system and say, look, if I do a payment on a client, send an SMS to the client thanking him for the payment and also reminding him that he should come and visit us for more loans. Reporting, a lot of times you guys do compliance reporting. Big challenge, you pull big reports that takes time, or multiple of you guys need to pull a report at the same time. So we are going to introduce a queuing system on the reports where you will be able to set up on the system which report must run when. And then it could be as an option emailed to you, or you can go and retrieve it from the system. And then obviously we're looking at real-time data sharing into the SACRA space. That is just some of the automation we're looking at. Obviously there's a lot of other stuff, and I want to invite each and everyone here. If you have got, or if you use our system and there's any suggestions on items we could automate, please engage with us. You know, put it on the table. We are pursuing this to make your life easier and let the system do the job. Security in development, big thing, fraud, one of those. We are introducing in development two-factor authentication when you sign in on your system. Those of you that don't know, it'll mean the person will still have a username and password. They can even have the biometrics. But there will be a second level of authentication to a phone, a number, so whatever we choose at that point, and they would have to enter that as well as confirmation. Also, time management on users. New permission coming where you can set up to grant users only access to the system during specific times. In other words, blocking anybody from accessing the system after 5 or before 8 in the morning, for example. Security questions, big. When you want to access a client, randomized questions popping up with correct answers and incorrect answers, and then the person needing to answer that correctly to be able to allow the user to actually proceed with granting loans. Then harness, briefly touched on that. Home Affairs, as we speak, we're busy with the integration in that, where we will integrate into harness, and you can inquire from harness, get a picture back, do a validation, and see if the right client is standing in front of you, taking that forward. Backup, back-end enhancements, I'll touch a bit on that on the next slide. Web loans, we're revisiting web loans. We're looking at optimization in the process flow. Those of you that have encountered web loans, those that don't know what it is an online website portal that you incorporate into your website that allows the consumer to apply themselves for a loan. This process includes uploading of documents, updating the information, that's pushed through into your webfin system, and then whoever is assigned will get a notification. They will then go and visit and look at this consumer, at the documents, at the application, and then approve and take it further. We're looking to revisit the processes, make it a bit more streamlined, and introducing some automation into the space. And then new cover. They spoke quite a lot about new cover. So what we're looking into the new cover space, apart from us doing the development where you can have the product included in the loans, you can have a standalone. We're also looking into claim submissions. So should there be a claim, bringing that into the system, that you can do it via the system. Amendment, update of policies, removing beneficiaries, adding beneficiaries, updating beneficiary details, and then obviously on the current reporting that there is available, building that out to make provision for more and more reports that is required. At this point, any questions?
So I just want to find it's on the VoIP.
Yes.
Okay, so hello, Yula, I'm Jan. So on the VoIP, okay, so there's actually a binding legal agreement. How long do they have to actually sign a formal documentation, or will that be sufficient going forward then?
If you look at insurance companies or anybody that does telemarketing, they phone you and then they follow a script where they ask you certain questions, you agree to certain terms and conditions. So that is what the VoIP is. We recommend that you normally sit with a legal lawyer that you are well versed and knows your business. They can draft a script that should include the mandate requirements that was previously stated as well. That whole discussion is recorded, and that whole discussion needs to cater for all of these terms and conditions as per the NCR, as per mandates, and that is then stored in the system and will stand up in court should there be ever a dispute in that space.
Okay, and then will that be like Justin? Sorry.
You mean in terms of payment system?
Yeah, when like Nedbank asks for a mandate.
It is at this stage. So all of the requests that we've had so far for mandates, where we have provided a voice mandate, has actually passed. On condition that it meets all of the criteria, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Key there. All the criteria, all the right questions and right answers. Okay. Anything else? Good to step on. Okay. So just a short little one on the back end, and I need to put this out there just as information, because a lot of the times the users don't see a lot of this that's happening because it is like an iceberg, the part that's under the water. So on Webfin, we are working into a replacement for the WDC component. Now, those that use Webfin Desktop Companion App. That is the tool that is used to integrate all the terminals and the signature pads and the fingerprints and all those devices into Webfin. We are actually quite far along in replacing that and updating it with a more frequent or more, I'll say, robust technology and architecture. And then we also embarked on a UX enhancement. We are busy replacing the screens that you guys are working on. We are making it faster. We're making it more effective. And to give you guys an example of one of the features that will be made available is a global search. So that will be a search little button at the top where you can enter any value and it will return. Let's say, for example, I enter in 100. It will show me client number 100. It will show me loan number 100, anything related to 100, which makes your search criteria so much easier to finding something that's relevant. The plan is to include, for example, the mandate ID in that search function as well, so that you don't have to go to a specific client on the ID number and then step through the motions because you might not have that information. But yeah, it is all in development. Then the Delphin side, we're looking at upgrading the DB, moving away from Firebird 2.5 onto a more recent Firebird version 4, which is much faster, much more stable, and allows us to do much more on that platform. And then we're also busy upgrading that to a 64-bit platform, where it's currently a 32-bit. Any questions on that? Okay, so now we get to serious matters. Data management. Each and every one of you, either using our system or any other system, should know who's SACRA. You should know what the data transmission hub is, what the credit bureaus is, and all of that. Okay, it doesn't mean we have to like it. Now, the slide that I've got up here is a quick diagram of the flow of your data. So what you will see there is, there's your microlending. They will issue a loan. You will submit the data through to the SACRA hub. The SACRA hub will then obviously validate those files and it will pass it on to the bureaus. The bureaus will update those profiles, and next time you do a credit check, you will get the updated information back into your space. Now, I'm not going to talk about the credit inquiry right now. I'm going to talk about the timelines around this space. The reason being, people expect the system, when they press a button, that it immediately reflects. In an ideal world, that is where we want to be. But unfortunately, there's a process. You'll see down here, it says credit provider to the bureaus. So that means when you grant a loan, from that moment, you have got 48 hours to get that loan to the credit bureau space. If you do not, early is good. If you do not, that loan will not be processed in the daily file, meaning that consumer's profile will not be updated. That's one of the main reasons why we have credit providers phoning us and saying to us, hey, I've got a problem. I've given this person the loan, but it's not showing on the bureau. We end up with credit providers that is only submitting their data once a week, for example. So some of the loans might not go through. Then the bureaus, upon receiving that information, have got 48 hours to update their profiles. So if you put that together, you're sitting with 3 days that can go past from the time that you've issued the loan until the time it must be reflecting on that consumer's profile. 3 days is a very long time. Then if something happens in any of these processes that breaks your data chain, in other words, records not updating, records not submitted, not showing, and all of that, there's processes in place. But it is a lengthy process. Number one, there's an ad hoc file and there's cleanup files. Now, we have developed systems on the back end where we can facilitate this. But that requires us to run a process to extract 3 years worth of data of your company. We need to submit this through the data transmission app at SACRA, and then the bureaus will pick it up. Once they get it, they've got 14 working days to process that file. Again, now we're sitting 14, 3, we're going to a month. Very, very simple. We're heading towards a month for any inconsistencies that's not updated on the bureau side. Important thing for me is, and that's why I first wanted to show you the process, is Regulation 1913, NCR regulation. Short version, you must share information in the prescribed manner to the prescribed portal to gain access to credit information. other words, if you do not share your data, the NCR can instruct the credit bureaus to not allow you to do credit checks. And what's the outcome of that? If you cannot do a credit check, you cannot do an affordability, or you cannot do affordability correctly. You will be found in breach should the NCR walk in on a desktop compliance. L702, that is the data file layout. That is what SACRA has called it. 702 refers to the data file has got 700 records per line that we send through to them, and the 2 is just its version 2. SACRA, we all know, DTH is a transmission hub that is owned by SACRA. SRN is your unique number that SACRA will issue your service provider. If you are direct, they'll issue it to you. If you are part of an ALG, which Delter is registered as a leader of an ALG group, affiliated led group, then we will manage that process on your behalf. We will collect your SACRA fees annually. We will pay it over to SACRA. SACRA will issue us the numbers because that number is critical in sharing your data. Okay. Any questions so far? All good? Why? You can have a chat to me.
So can I just confirm then, you do not have a Delphin or a Webfin system with you, is that right? So what do you use at the moment? Sorry? Yes, at the moment. Nothing. Okay. Cool. We'll sell you something. Don't worry.
Okay, so I've highlighted some of the challenges, and this is based on investigations where we had to help our credit providers when the NCR walked in and asked the question of, give me this 5 contracts paperwork. Give me the loan agreement, give me the affordability, give me all supporting documents that you used to grant this credit. So, firstly, non-compliant, providers not sharing data as intended. 48 hours, clients not sharing that data within 48 hours. We've moved into automation on Webfin. Webfin is doing that automatically, but clients have found a way of breaking that as well, which I'll explain now. Then we've got an end of the month file. So we submit a daily file on behalf of all our clients, merchants. And then at the end of the month, we do a monthly file, which is a wrap-up of the whole month's transactions, which we then share with the bureaus as well. In your daily files, we will be sharing new loan creations and closures, in other words, paid up loans. Any payment on a term loan or not a full payment will go through in the monthly file. We call it payment profiles. So that's where we share the 3 different transactions. But if you have not submitted within 48 hours, that new loan or that closure will not register immediately on the bureaus. It will have to wait for the end of the month file. Because then the payment profile will indicate that this loan is either closed or it's a new loan and then taken from there. Another concern, especially on groups, all branches not sharing data. SACRA issues 1 SRN number per entity. So if you've got 10 branches, they'll use the same SRN number. Challenge is, if we get to the end of the month file, which we submit between the 1st and the 7th of the next month, and any of those branches have not shared data, we are not allowed to upload that data for the whole business. We have to wait until the 15th of the month to see if we cannot get data in to make this data complete and then upload the data. So that's why it's important that you need to ensure that your data is regularly uploaded. Then, non-compliant, providers not storing inquiries or not doing them at all. Big, big problem. I can say to you the list of credit providers that have phoned me and said, but I did do a credit check. Now they want this specific loan. We've checked reports, we've checked everything. There was either never a credit check done, or they did do a credit check, but they never stored that specific PDF document. Now that's where the challenge comes in. That document you are supposed to store there and then immediately. That's why we've got the document solutions in Delfin, in Webfin, where you can save those documents on the consumer and on the loan for easy retrieval should there be any inquiry in that space. Okay. Dispute resolutions. Most of you should have encountered this. That is when a consumer goes to a credit bureau and tell the credit bureau, this is a bunch of crap on my credit report. In other words, this loan or this loan is not there. I've got now an interesting one where a consumer has disputed adverse markings on his name. That means the bureau now, according to the NCR, has got 21 days to resolve this dispute. They need to reach out to the credit provider that registered this. They will ask you for proof of the agreement and of the loan and all of that. If you provide the proof, the consumer has got no case. If you do not, they will remove that record from the consumer's profile, never to be able to return. So should you get emails from us or from a bureau inquiring about a consumer's account details, status, balances, please do not take it lightly. Please do respond. I had a number of queries where clients come back and say, but why is this loan not showing? Then we found out there was a dispute log, nobody responded to it, and it was removed. Then obviously bad debt. Next bad one. A lot of clients decide to manage their bad debt outside of our systems. In other words, they've got a third party or they hand it over to a lawyer. And what they do is they do a journal write-off in our systems. If you do that, make use and do a journal, a write-off, hand it over. Two different things. A hand it over will mark this loan as being part of a legal process, while a written off means it's done. I've given over the bad debt, its final status. This will not be able to update ever again. Any questions so far? Sorry to hit you guys with this information after lunch, eh? Yes.
So I've got a mic here. Sorry. So on the that storing of inquiries.
Yes.
So when you hit the inquiry and it opens up and you store it in Webfin, let's say, and you do another inquiry, does it charge you for an extra inquiry, or will it open up like Delfin saying this is within 7 days? It will open the current inquiry.
It will tell you there's an existing inquiry and you can go and check it. But if you click search again, it will bring the new inquiry in. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's the process flow and timelines, daily files.
Yeah,
Yes.
I wanted to ask, can I blacklist a customer on this Delter system?
Give me your definition of blacklist.
Like when you go in, it will show like in what do you call that? Where it shows it. Yes, in red. As you go, you know, there's the ones that there's where it shows debt under debt review and there's also this customer is not. We are using the name blacklisting, but there's a name that it gives.
Okay.
It's in red usually.
So
when you,
that will effectively come in when you start a legal process. In other words, you've spoken to the lawyer, you've sent him a section 129 to notify the consumer that you're going to hand him over and all of that. That is when you will go into the system and say, listen here, I have handed over. In other words, your journal, you go right off, hand it over. That will be your option, not deceased or written off. Hand it over, and that will send a handed over flag to the bureaus, and it will show that this client is now in the legal process of collecting. Those statuses only happen when you perform that specific functions, yes.
okay. What in a case where I don't want to consult lawyers because you find that it's a small amount, maybe it's an amount of 800 Rand that the customer decided now it's not paying and I can't find the customer and I don't want to consult lawyers, which will cost me unnecessary cost. I decide, okay, let me perhaps go to the, what do you call, the small claims court just to get my capital granted and not that interest. Is there no way I can still do that myself? because the small claims court, for example, won't assist, they won't, you know, like you're saying, when you go to the real lawyers that have access to that, is there no way I can just put a red flag there for whoever wanted, in case this person goes somewhere else later, maybe to her or to him to look for funds, and they check on that just to see that, okay, this customer is actually,
Your process in the loan management would be to actually go and do a handed over on the webfin system or Delfin system, and that will send the flag through. The alternative is to do a manual update on that record, but that requires you to make use of the CBA, Credit Bureau Association portal, where you can do a manual update, which is not through a system, and that will push into the bureau spaces. That is the alternative. What they do is they've got an email address, you register on their website, they will give you a template of the format that it needs to be in. They will give you access to an SFTP portal where you upload this file, they will validate it, and they will push it through to the bureaus.
That's just too complex, Pierre. Really? No, am I right, guys? I mean, that's just no. We must put our heads together and come up with a solution for you guys. Okay, hit the button. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Stefan. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes.
I phoned in the call center the other day and I had to write off bad debt. And the person on the other side said to me, remember, you're going to blacklist this guy. What is the difference between bad debt and handing over? What happens on the bureau side?
Okay. So if you do a handed over, we call it a code L, which we give to the bureaus, and the bureaus mark this specific agreement as handed over. The balance will remain, everything will remain. You can still update this by doing payments and process it as normal. However, it's got the adverse record as handed over. So anybody performing a credit check can see, listen here, they actually still owe the money, and these guys are busy with a legal process, which could be anywhere, and they need to engage with you to find out where you are at. A written off is a final state. I owe you money. You've searched for me far and long. You can't find me. You want to get it out of your books. You say written off. That's a final state at the bureau. So it's marked as written off. The balance goes to zero, and they can see for a period of 36 months that there was debt written off. But you will never be able to go and activate it again and collect on it. It's done and seen as final.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? All good. And that is pretty much me, except for. But wait, there's more. Yes.
Customer on the system.
Credit in which form? Adding a cost, stuff like that.
Not adding. I think I know we can add, but subtracting in a way. Obviously, the customer owes me, so now I want to refund the customer, but I want it in record, so that, let's say maybe I overcharged or whatever. I just want it on record that I did refund this customer, so I want it on a system. So can I credit the customer?
So if your overpayments is activated in your system, then you are allowed to process, in other words, receive more than what's outstanding, which will send this client into a minus on the system, and you can then, per record purposes, refund the client out of the system for that amount that was overpaid.
So it's just an access issue.
It's just a configuration. Okay.
So if you call into the Delta support desk, the guys there will be able to assist you.
Then,
Here,
yes.
I've got a question. So one of my merchants, he had a client coming in whereby his loan was paid up, everything was completely fine, but on the credit bureau, it still says it's outstanding. What's the process to lock that dispute?
Okay, there's two processes. Number one, the similar process as the CBA to update the adverse. Or we have initiated a process where you can log on your own Webfin and Delfin. It's a function that is available under Credit Bureau updates. If you're not sure, speak to the support. When you click there, it will open up a list of records that it cannot match back on the status on your LMS. There you can update balances, you can update statuses, and once you submit that with the next daily file, that will go through. If you don't find it there and you still need to close it, there's an email address that we've created. I think it's NLR closures or something at Delter. We'll share it with you, where you can send the details, the last credit check, marking which record it is, and we will then submit a manual closure through our portal into the bureau space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you wonder about it and you need details, rather mail through to support@delter.co.za, and those guys can guide you through the process as well. Okay. Maybe we can add that into a newsletter, our newsletter
That's it.
coming up, and we can broadcast that to everyone.
So if there's no more questions, I'm going to close with one short little thing, and that is credit inquiries. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it is costing you money. Every time you click, it is costing you some sort of money. But if the NCR walks in there and they ask you, out of the list of 3,000 loans you've given them, 5 loans, the chances are very good. If you have not done a credit check on each and every loan as part of your affordability study, they will pick those that you have not done. Okay, that is just Murphy's Law. And then we end up with customers that we try to assist. And as I said earlier, there's no credit check, so I can't even give them a reference number for the same date and time as the new loan, which they can present. They haven't got the credit check, and the worst of this is they are actually reckless lenders at that given point. Now they need to go and get lawyers. They need to get legal assistance for them to mitigate this whole process. And that for what, 5 Rand? You know, so please have a look at it. And this is based purely on the stats that we've got available on our systems to see what's the number of loans versus the number of credit checks that's coming through our systems. And I really want to put it out there. Have a look at it. If your staff is not following it, put processes in place. We are busy with development to make the management of it better, where we're going to have options that you as management owners can make a choice to force the system to ensure that it is done. But yeah, we have picked up, and please have a look at it. Do some spot checks during the month, random checks, just for that ease of mind that when the NCR walks in, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, and that is me. Thanks, everybody.